Hello and welcome to another Warcraft the audio commentary. Today we're going to be watching a best of 3 series from EWCL between two great players, Do_Jupiter, the Red Orc, spawning in, and I was about to say in as the Red Orc, but he is the Red Orc. We already established he's the Red Orc, so he is in the top right. His opponent is going to be wAm, IF_wAm, spawning in as the Grey Human. In the lower left, the map is indeed Last Refuge 1.3. These games are being cast quote-unquote live at twitch.tv/purebee, so feel free to check those out. We do them Monday through Friday at 9 p.m. EST to 10 p.m. roughly. Every weekday, so feel free to check that out. You can follow me at twitter.com/sirpurebee, and you'll get updates as to when we go live. I have to fill this time somehow, because there's not a lot to say. There was another thing I was going to say, though, kind of important. Yes, the replays. And you might have noticed we're not in observer position or vision, which is always really frustrating, but unfortunately there's just no games, there's just no observers in these games. So at least not in this game. Maybe there will be one in the other ones if we're lucky, but there's not in this one, so we're just gonna have to do the Fog of War off thing. Happens, no big deal. Let's talk about the strategies then. We do have a Blade Master coming in for Jupiter, good old Jupiter. It's, you know, it's not bad. You know, on the bright side too though, about not having replays, or not having the observers, we can just hit F11. Yeah, switches our player, so cool. So cool. And of course we're gonna see the Archmage filming coming in from good old wAm. Now I'm just gonna go ahead and say my prediction for this game is gonna be that we're gonna see a big sky push, you know, come in, own the Orc. The Orc's gonna cry a little bit. Maybe we'll see like a couple of 400, 500 damage critical strikes coming in from the Blade Master that'll keep him in the game. And then I'll lose to slow. I don't have a clue, but that's what I think is going to happen. And we're probably going to see both players pick up a Naga as their second hero, because that's pretty much the best hero in the game, I think. Blade Master Naga speaks for itself. Gotta get those criticals. Anyway, so we have wAm with the Archmage down here. He is just going to do some basic militia creeping. Notice that he just leaves these militia to finish this creep off. He doesn't keep his Archmage there. What he does is he gets the item and then he screws off. He's like, I got the item and I gotta go. It's all about speed, right? I don't know what his next move is going to be. It looks like he wants to go maybe creep one of these camps up here. We can see there's a green here and a green here. He could creep either one of those very easily with this army. But I think he just wants to do that. And you might be wondering, why would he ever want to do that? Why would he ever want to come all the way across the map to creep instead of creeping the ones down at his part of the map? Well, it's mainly coming down to deception, right? Because there's a fairly decent chance that the Blade Master is going to try to harass him early on. And then the question is, can the Blade Master find him? And the answer is yes. You know, there's only so much you can do when deception fails. So he didn't quite get the deceiving that he wanted to do. I guess this is very much what we call metagame, right? Because both players, wAm made a decision that would not make sense, except in light of the fact that he knows his opponent's playing a certain type of way. And his opponent made a decision that wouldn't make sense, except he knows his opponent is making a decision that doesn't make sense because he's going to play a certain type of way. It's kind of weird to think about, but it's very interesting. It's very cool, and that's metagame for you. So a little bit. Some people say Warcraft 3 doesn't have metagame. Particularly a lot of people who are heavy into StarCraft. They're like, what metagame is so different in StarCraft than in Warcraft, and maybe to an extent, but we definitely see a lot of quote-unquote metagame going on with like creeping and positioning. Really, creep pathing. If you don't pay a lot of attention, I think that's something we need to talk more about every now and then. But the way players will creep a map is like super relative. Like there's so many ways you can creep a map, and there's generally only like one quote-unquote efficient way. But you don't always go with the efficient way because of the fact that you don't always want to, just because you might. There's a risk-reward thing going on where if you know you're going to get harassed while you're creeping, if you can go somewhere else that may not be as efficient, buys you some more unharassed time, whatever. Anyway, so we do have wAm. He's coming in here. He's doing some harass on these burrows, good old burrows right here. This is pretty much a general precursor to any kind of sky push. This doesn't indicate a sky push necessarily, because you can do this without sky pushing, but I would say that generally anytime that you do this kind of harass early on, especially when you're only level 2 on your Archmage, it's generally because they want to do some kind of big tier 2 push, and I think it could be a sky push. I don't know why I'm harping on about sky push so much right now, but I feel it in my veins. We're gonna see sky push. Of course, it's a very high chance. It's Orc versus Human, so that we do see that strategy quite commonly. It's quite good. We're just going to have to wait and see, though, what is going to happen. I like how the Blade Master sitting here in Windwalk. He does have that Windwalk about to pop off. Even though he's got a healing salve, he still wants to use the damage from the Windwalk onto the Archmage because he knows that because he's been harassed a little bit already, that unfortunately he didn't quite get the backstab, but he did get a critical, so it doesn't really matter too much, right? But he knows that he needs to be doing some damage to the Archmage because whenever an Archmage is being really aggressive, then you generally want to go ahead and do some damage to them so that they can't be super aggressive if they try to go for like a bigger aggression play type thing. I don't know. But that's generally what you want to do. And a great deny actually from the Archmage right there on his own Water Elemental, denying that experience. A very vital thing to do to the Blade Master because anytime you're doing this, right, you can see, look, already that the Blade Master has more experience than the Archmage does, and the Archmage doesn't want to fall too far behind in experience, and especially if he does go for any more harass, which is very likely, because if you have a lot of footmen, then you generally want to, that's what you generally want to use them for, is working on burrows, and you can end up feeding experience that way, so you really want to just deny as much experience as you possibly can. Of course, down here we're going to see this Blade Master is currently chasing the crap out of this Archmage. Does drop an Observer Ward as well, always a good thing to do. Of course, doing it right there is not really the best decision, I think. I was wrong, it's not a Sky Push, there's a Blood Mage, what? I don't know, but we're going to find out. I don't have a clue. You can still do some kind of early push play, though. Definitely could still do so, and maybe use Banish or Flame Strike. There's really a lot you can do with that. That's actually really clever. I like it. I do like it, but we'll have to see exactly how wAm decides to use that here very shortly. Of course, the Shadow Hunter will be picked up as the second hero choice for Mr. Jupiter. And if we look at the bases, we can see what kind of tech we're going to look for. Is it going to be a Spirit Lodge and a Bestiary? Of course, that is a late Spirit Lodge. As you can see, we're getting Ensnare research right now. Does he have a Raider out? No. Generally, you should probably make a Raider and then Ensnare, but it depends exactly on how you're managing. He might have just had a Burrow finish, and so if you start Ensnare before your Burrow finishes, so you don't actually have the food, then it would make sense that you would want to go ahead and research Ensnare, but I wasn't paying enough attention, so I don't really know. And the reason for that generally is just, you know, thinking, oh, because it's more efficient to get a Raider out before you're Ensnare, which it's kind of obvious, but if you don't think about it, then you might not get it. But here we will say actually that the Blade Master does go ahead and get a nice creep still. Will he get both? Yes, he gets the experience for both the Ogre Magi as well as the item, which is going to be a Scroll of the Beast and one of the little trolls. So not bad. He did get slowed on his way at running away from this army. Going to run back in here just to cancel the Healing Scroll of Regeneration on the Footman, and that is not the item name. The item name is the Scroll of Regeneration that was on that Footman. Not bad. Of course, there is a priest, so it's not a huge deal unless you can actually manage to kill it. Going to cancel another one. Going to cancel all of those Footmans. Missed the Scroll of Regeneration, and here we can see that the Blade Master is just trying to slow down this human army before he approaches into this base, because he knows, yep, there's some aggression coming my way. And my army's over here creeping out this stuff, so you gotta be a little bit careful there. Of course, we do see one Raider is out. Of course, we know it has Ensnare. At this point, we will see that the Shadow Walkers, or the Spirit Walkers, if I can't speak today. The Spirit Walker's Adept training is coming in. You're gonna see one of those Footmen getting ensnared immediately and taken down. Of course, here comes that Banish being used really nicely on the Blade Master. Of course, that's simply denying him the ability to attack. And that is a really cool thing, because you're sitting there you're actively denying the most DPS target unit that they have, or the highest priority unit that the Orc player has there, which is the Blade Master. You're saying you're not gonna attack during this time. And that's one of the really cool uses of Banish in that very aggressive way. Of course, there is an issue that it costs a lot of mana to spam Banish like that on a hero, because it doesn't last super long on a hero, but it does work, and you can start banishing other units if you don't want to banish the Blade Master, but it looks like that's what he wants to focus on. And, you know, it's not that bad considering he has Brilliance Aura. He's going to get level 2 probably pretty soon, and then he can actually go ahead and start siphoning mana maybe from that Shadow Hunter or something, should he decide to. We're actually already going to see a Dispel being used to get rid of that Banish. You can just see how ridiculous this is. The Blade Master's DPS is so important, so very important to the Orc player's army. So if he's getting spam banished, it's really, there's not a lot of headway going on when that Blade Master is actually banished. So there you go. But of course, we will see the human player deciding to TP out. He had a bunch of peasants there. They weren't quite going to be doing anything. I don't know what he was thinking about going. Like, I guess it wasn't a great position for him if you look at it, because he had a level 2 Archmage, but his opponent had a level 3 Blade Master, and he didn't have level 2 on his Blood Mage, so he can't sit there and just spam the Banish, because he needs to be able to siphon mana from heroes and units and whatever else. He would have had level 3, but the Blade Master's done a great job stealing experience. We just saw him still yet another creep, the level 4. What a great little play right there. Actually going to banish the Ogre Magi. Unfortunately, it's not going to be quite good enough, because that Blade Master still is going to be able to steal the item and the experience, which is just kind of insane. He's playing really well. But the Blood Mage has picked up level 2, which means he can get Siphon Mana. And he could go Flame Strike if he feels like Brilliant Sword is enough. I don't think we're going to see that. I definitely think we're going to see the Siphon Mana on him, because Siphon Mana has a lot of utility. Imagine just giving the Shadow Hunter, taking all of the mana from the Shadow Hunter. That is just going to make this unit pretty much useless without mana. And if he does drain all of the mana from the Shadow Hunter and the Blade Master, then he can also start draining mana from the Spirit Walkers. So he's going to have plenty of a reservoir from Siphon Mana. And yeah, he definitely got Siphon Mana, just siphoning some of his mana on over to the Archmage, so the Archmage can go ahead and start doing stuff as well. And that's another thing as well, you get the benefit of being able to constantly summon those water elementals, because you're going to have plenty of mana to do that without any issues whatsoever, because there's so many places you can draw mana from in this Orc army. Of course, he's actually going very Raider heavy. Also has a Coda Beast out. Are we going to see very many more Spirit Lodges? Because he needs to have Spirit Walkers to deal with the casters. If you don't have Spirit Walkers to dispel the slows, you're going to be really, really hurting. Of course, over here we will see level 3 on the Archmage, and level not quite level 3 on the Blood Mage. He does actually pick up a Scourge Bone Chimes, a really good item. He can go ahead and just creep this out with his Archmage here, no problem. Of course, his only issue about getting level 3 is whether or not that Blade Master still has the experience, and he does. But he can still get level 3, he just needs to get the experience for both of these, so he's going to have to go ahead and try. Oh, no, I guess I'm wrong. He just needed 1. Literally just exactly enough experience for that. So there you go. Of course, we will see these Raiders coming in. One of them goes ahead and ensnares the Water Elemental right there. The Blade Master also goes ahead and finishes picking it off. It was already kind of low, so it wasn't too hard to kill it. And that's, of course, just going to give him some additional experience. But that Raider is probably going to lose its life as well. Indeed, it does go down. And here we can start to see this fight happening. And, of course, we can see once again the power of that Banish and the Siphon Mana. And we're going to find out once he banishes again, that is indeed level 2 Banish. So he's just relying on Siphon Mana level 1, which is probably enough. And if you go that tech, he might end up picking up Flame Strike at level 4, but he's probably going to want to rely on just getting faster Siphon Manas, which is perfectly fine. We can go ahead and see these pretty good little the spells coming in from the Spirit Walkers, but they're running out of mana pretty quickly because of all those Siphon Manas. Of course, he's doing a really good job of ensnaring that Blood Mage, because the ensnare does actually interrupt the Siphon Mana channel. As long as he keeps doing that, he's in good shape. But once he runs out of Raiders, then he is not going to be able to do that anymore, and he's going to have to probably back out once that happens. And already see just the power of this combination. It's doing really, really well. And the human player is just going to keep on taking the lead in this fight. We're just going to see a lot less spells coming out from the Orc player, and whenever that happens, it's just really, really hard to deal with. Of course, we're going to see maybe another Raider going down. No, it looks like it's going to be able to back out here at 90 HP. Of course, he is going to go ahead and get a healing salve placed on him, and he's probably just going to run straight back to the base, but maybe even just wait for a healing wave. I don't know. It looks like he's coming back into the fight. In fact, he could be useful, because he definitely at least needs the ensnare, even if he's not using it for the combat, just because he needs to keep interrupting these Siphon Manas and etc. Of course, we're going to see him trying to maybe go for a kill on the Blood Mage. Will he go for the surround? He's not going to go for the surround. He's working on the Spellbreaker instead. We're going to go ahead and see some more Siphon Mana coming onto the Spirit Walker just as this Raider comes in and casts the ensnare to go ahead and interrupt it one more time. Long fights are always fun to watch, so you can go ahead and see this is definitely working out. Unfortunately, I would say that for the Orc player, I would say that the human player is really in the lead here, but he's going for the Blood Mage. He's going to go ahead and cast Invisibility on him, but there is a ward up right there, a Sentry Ward, whether or not wAm knows it. So that means if he decides to go for that Blood Mage, if he tries to use Invisibility as the get out of jail card, it's not going to work. He does go ahead and pass a healing potion over to it, which will allow him to heal up a little bit, but again, he just looks like he wants to rely on that Invisibility, which just won't work with that Sentry Ward there, because it does reveal Invisibility, and the Orc player actually able to go ahead and get out of here relatively unscathed. Considering he's getting away without losing everything, because generally if you try to run away from this kind of army, you just lose everything. You can't just run away, but you can if you can force them to back off the way he did. And you can already see, I mean, the human player knows he can just chase it down, and he's not too concerned about it. But he does need to try to do a little bit of damage, because why not? He just needs to make sure he doesn't lose all his mana. That's why he immediately windwalked right there. He knows that the Siphon Mana was coming, and he didn't want to lose enough mana, because if he dropped below the 75 mana that he is required to cast Windwalk, then the slow could just wail on him, and he would lose a lot of life, and then the push into his base would be quite difficult to deal with. The Orc player has managed to get up an expansion. I don't know if that was, it looks probably slow built, because those heroes were down there for so long. I don't think they could have went over there and actually built it. So it's a slow build expansion, I would say, and he's beating to mine just fine with all of those peasants. And of course, the human player doesn't actually have that, but the human player is immediately going to scout that without really any problem. He's just, it's like, yeah, okay, why not? Let's go scout this. Of course, he has a water elemental. He just is going to suicide over here. You can see that the Blade Master is getting a lot of experience, getting pretty close to level 5, which you do have to be careful about, because if he gets high level, like level 5 or level 6, if he gets level 6, he has an ultimate that is just really, really good against spellcasters in general. But even at level 5, he can get level 3 critical strike and really make it hard to keep that Archmage and Blood Mage alive, and also just individual casters in general that he might decide to target down. And just watch this, he's going to go ahead and 2 hits, 3 hits, he's already got that Sorceress down, 4 hit to kill the Sorceress, 4 shots with 1 critical strike in the backstab. Very, very nice. Of course, we're going to see this fight once again going underway. This time, it's not a very high output damage army from the human player, and that's kind of one of the things. The Blood Mage plays heavily into this this idea that these fights take a really long time to fight, but of course this isn't really a bad position for the Orc either, and he's actually going to be able to turn this around. It looks like maybe the Orc has a little bit more army supply. He's sitting at 51 versus 56, so actually the human has more, but I don't know where it is, because this is not... The Orc looks like he has a much bigger army. Maybe it's just because he has all those peasants. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and see, or peons, I'm sorry. But anyway, we'll see that Blood Mage being really, really careful, because he is definitely kind of being targeted right on down by that Blade Master, because he is just so effective in these fights. You can't just let him do his own thing. You have to force him back either through ensnares to cancel the channels and keep him at low mana, or by just right-clicking on him. One of the two, you have to do something. Of course, he is sitting there with a healing scroll. You will get hexed, unfortunately. That might be the end of him. Is there... He could... Oh, wow. It goes down to 240 damage, critical strike. That is the power of the level 5 Blade Master. Jupiter just playing really, really well by picking off lots of experience throughout this whole game. We've seen him doing it really well with the creep jobs, and we've seen him doing it really, really well just by... the creep jobs. We've seen him doing really well just by stealing creeps, last hits, and also just by doing a good job with, you know, picking units off from the human army, spare units here and there, and summons, etc. Just doing all of that to get that level up as fast as he can, as high as he can, and it's done a really good job. He definitely has a much better hero level situation for him. And you can just look at this, level 3 on the Archmage and the Blood Mage sitting at level 3 versus 5-4, and that Shadowhunter is also very close to level 4 himself. So even though the human player does have the food advantage, or at least he did, he's sitting at 55 food now, the Orc player is sitting at 56 food, so both players are sitting neck and neck right now, but of course, wAm doesn't have his Blood Mage out, so the game's not over for him just yet, but it looks more and more like it's in the Orc's favor. Generally, that's the big thing you don't want, is for that Blade Master hit level 5 or level 6, because it makes it a lot harder, because, again, this is not a high output damage army from the human player. It's just an outlast army, and that's one of the reasons that I think we saw the Blood Mage, which makes him very effective, but you have to have experience, and he lost literally so much experience in those creep jacks, which made it really hard for him to actually take the advantage in the fights, because you need to get level 5 on your Archmage, ideally. Definitely if he has a level 5 Blade Master, because that allows you to get a lot of damage output, either through Blizzard or something. You could do Blizzard, which would work kind of well, even though you might not consider it normally because of Ensnare interrupts, but you can actually make it work when you have a Blood Mage as well. So it's like there's 2 channels now, and it's like, oh, if you just focus on the Raiders, then they can't interrupt every channel, and you still get a lot of mana that way, so you can siphon mana, give it over to your Archmage. So even if he's getting Blizzards interrupted, between the Blizzard, between the Brilliance Aura, and the Siphon Manas, he should be okay. Gonna see a nice dodge from that Kodabeast right there, from the Spellbreakers right there, from getting devoured by the Kodabeast. But this Blade Master is doing so much damage, he could very easily kill this Archmage like in 3 hits, 3 attacks. He could if he gets lucky with those critical strikes. There are a couple of sorcerers here. They can go ahead and cast invisibility, but he's going to have to be really quick about it should that Blade Master decide to focus down the Archmage. First, we're going to see the Blade Master is actually in a really bad spot right now. He might even die right now. This could be really bad for the Orc player. As you can see, he doesn't have any mana to go ahead and get any Windwalks. Will he get surrounded? He might be able to get to that shop just in the nick of time. Will the Blood Mage be able to get there first and pick up the really good items? The lesser invulnerability. No, it looks like this potion will go over to the Blade Master, but he's actually trying to run away, which is insane. I don't know. He should have just stayed there and waited for maybe TP scroll or something. No, it looks like the Orc army will actually come in here. And maybe even be able to save the Blade Master. It looks like they're going to be able to do just that. And as you can see now, their fight will go underway. This is kind of an important fight for the human player because he knows that the Orc's got an expansion up and running. And the Orc is in fact sitting at 62 food, and the human player is sitting at 52 food. But that Blade Master is about as weak as he's going to be in this game from this point on. So either take this fight and win it with Militia, do something. He has to do something. He could easily bring in Militia. He's so close to his base. Will we see that happening? It looks like he's not really looking to do that, which I don't understand. Again, he could easily bring in Militia, which could turn the tide right now. Level 4 finally being picked up on the Archmage. He's using that Blood Mage really well to siphon the mana from the Shadowhunter. The Shadowhunter is level 5 as well. He's got a Clarity going up onto the hill to be out of sight and range of the Siphon Manas. Just trying to be very careful here. I'm going to see yet another great Dispel coming in, and the Orc now actually deciding it's time to speed scroll out. This is not a position he wants to fight in, but again, It's very interesting. I mean, the Orc player doesn't have to fight anymore because he has an expansion and his opponent doesn't have an expansion. And you can just see how the food advantage is stacking up. wAm sitting at 51 food and Jupiter sitting at 68 food. Basically, the longer this game goes, the worse it is for the human player. He has to do something, and that's why he's gonna be very aggressive right now, and he has to go for this fight, and he has to win this fight somehow. He can't just back off if he starts losing. He has to do something amazing in order to win the game, because he's just gonna fall too far behind otherwise. We're just gonna see him trying to move the Blood Mage into the back. Will that be enough though? To keep him alive? I mean, he's kind of blocked by that water elemental. He is ensnared right now. He's taking a little bit of damage. If he gets ensnared, he will be invisible when he's invisible if he's ensnared. And of course, he can also have the invisibility dispelled by Spirit Walkers. There are a lot of Spirit Walkers on the field. 5 Spirit Walkers on the field. He's trying to go ahead and keep that Blade Master out of the fight, but man, that Blade Master is quick to level 6. He could even end up getting a level 3 kill on that Blood Mage. That might just give him the level 6. I think it would. And it looks like the Blood Mage might go down. He picks up level 4. Level 6 is on the Blade Master, and GG is called from wAm. Wow, GG, well played. The game got very exciting, I think, at the end of the game, and I think it was kind of enjoyable to watch those fights. And Jupiter just played really well, stealing so much experience. I think that was really the crux that put the nail in the coffin for Mr. wAm, because wAm could have done so much better if he just wasn't so out-leveled. You know, he was fighting 2-2 versus like 3-3 for so long. It was just really rough to watch. You can just see the difference in experience here. It's just absolutely insane. Almost double. Actually, is it double? It's about double, actually. Jupiter having about double the experience. Just absolutely insane. And that's just such a hard thing to deal with. So, and it's really unfortunate for wAm, because it's really hard to prevent, right, a Blade Master from stealing last hits on creeps, because there's not a lot you can do. There's not a lot of burst damage you can do when you have a Blood Mage, a second hero. You don't have like a Stormbolt, you don't have like a Breath of Fire, you don't have something that just does like 100 damage in one go. So it's kind of difficult to deal with. But that's game 2. We're gonna go into game that's game 1. We're gonna go into game 2 here in just a second. We'll be back in like 20 seconds once I get the game loaded up. So thanks for watching. If you're on YouTube, hopefully there'll be an annotation here that you can click to go to game 2. If you're on the stream, like I said, 20 seconds will be in the game. All right, I'll see you there.